everyone, it's Dave from Stingwray R-M. First things first, let's lay out our template and get the back cut out. Once that's all said and done, just get everything nicely lined up, just so we use the perfect straight edge on the Alumilite sheet or plywood, whatever you're using. Bunch of different options out there, but this one's super rigid, super light. I'm using the 10mm thick Alumilite. Later on in the video I'll show a picture of the actual product sticker. So yeah, getting everything taped down. I like to cut out little notched areas just to keep anything from sliding and moving around. So we'll speed that up, show this in quick motion here. Now anytime I use a template, I really like to remove any excess. This isn't necessary, but again, I hate to accidentally bump something. I like to make my workspace as simple as possible. Yet again, get to a point, speed this up here. So I'm just cutting the outer edge, the largest the splitter could possibly be, even though I don't plan on using it, just to kind of free up some of this excess. Once that's done, time to mark your holes through the template. I'm just using a punch. You could also poke a hole and use a marker, whatever you got. If you have the quick release setup, this is where you're going to have to do some measuring with the hardware on your car, just because those aren't included. There's a couple different options for how you set that up, so I figure anybody using a quick release probably is handy enough to get those measurements down pat, but the markings on the template will at least give you a good idea. It gives you center and a good idea of pretty much where it will be. Alright, then we get to drilling. So the Alumilite drill's really easy. You just got two thin sheets of aluminum with some corrugated plastic in the middle. Really rigid stuff too, so yep. Now's a good time to clean up everything you drilled, just to keep any burrs or anything from your freshly powder coated parts or out of the threads of all your bolts. Just makes it easier later when you're underneath pushing things up through the bottom. Now I'm going to cut out the holes. You might want to skip this step if you're going to reuse the template. But I just like to cut everything out, so once it's mounted, I can blue Loctite it and keep it that way. Again, just coming back in, cleaning some things up, just making sure everything's nice and neat before we do. For me, this will be the permanent install. For you, you might be over the template still, which you'll have to disassemble in the end anyway, and honestly, I ended up disassembling anyway because I wrapped the whole thing in black vinyl. So this is kind of necessary, but whatever. So is toying with cars. Regardless of how you're doing it, now's a good time to get everything mounted up and test fit. If you didn't know, there's two little notches on the front of the splitter mounts. You want those to face forward towards the front of the splitter. That puts the captive nuts on the outside and allows pretty easy on and off once it's all done. Now comes out the splitter support plates that mount underneath. This actually makes a huge area underneath for all the pressure to kind of spread out. I'm actually attempting to run no side supports. Definitely don't think I need the front supports with the splitter this size, and the Alumilite's so rigid. We'll find out if it fails 100 miles an hour down pit races back straight. Hopefully it's not catastrophic, but I don't think it will be. Now on to prepping everything for the front of the car. If you have one of my tow hooks, make sure that's installed. I didn't include that here, but pretty easy. The plates just slip on, bumper slips over. You can pretty much access everything once your bumper support, crash beam, whatever you want to call it, is on there. Just makes a big old sandwich. One thing I forgot to film, you'll need to notch the lower rad support right here. I'll show you. It doesn't get into the actual spot welded support at all. It's just kind of a little excess metal. Do that on both sides so it has clearance. You also need to flip your horn. So if you look at the horn here in a second, you can see I just literally flipped it above the other horn. And then you're good to go. So yep, just get some blocks, maybe some 2x4s. I have these rubber blocks from one of my lifts. Just get those in place, and then you're going to drop the whole splitter so that your mounts kind of slip in those notches we just looked at. And then you can kind of make a really good decision on, you know, how far you want the stick out to be and which line you're going to go with on the template. Now you can get a pretty good look at what it looks like, which line you want to go with. I'm using a Civic Type R late 90s lip. It still needs a bunch of work, but this gives me an idea how big I want the splitter to be. I'm going to end up going with the second line, I think is the 500 millimeter from centerline. So here's the Pro Light I was telling you about. I think it's just Alumilite rebranded, so no big deal. Alright, now we're getting ready to cut everything out, so we're back on the bench. I'm going to cut the template where I'm going to cut it. If you want to save the template here, though, you could always just, you know, you could get a punch and give it some little marks. You could also just cut a couple little holes and put some Sharpie, however you want to mark it, but I prefer cutting it out, getting it all taped back down so it doesn't move, and then using painter's tape you can still see the line through it. Makes for pretty easy cutting. Again, if you're going to reuse it, though, you might want to watch this step, not, you know, cut it up as much as I do, but I can go print these. They're about 15 bucks to print. I actually don't make any money on them, so yeah, 15 bucks is well worth it. And you will have enough to make a second one out of Alumilite when it's all done. Now for this, I'm just using a regular old jigsaw. I have a Lennox fine tooth metal blade on it, though, and it really does cut it super nice. I actually didn't have any prep for the little lip cover I got off Amazon when I was all done. I just ended up putting like a PVC C-channel cap over it, and it looks really good once it's wrapped in vinyl. You'll see it at the end of the video. And now for the fun part, pulling it out for the first time. And there she is. Nice front splitter all mounted up, ready to go. Just going to peel all the paper off now, clean it up a little bit. One of the things you don't see in the video is that I do wrap it in black vinyl, and so I ended up taking it all apart again, bolting on the center section, which should be self-explanatory, and then putting a little lip guard around it. And here it all is mounted up. You know, still needs to come back off and get some finishing. I wrapped mine in vinyl, put some canards on the side, also put a little lip guard on it just to kind of clean it up too. A lot of that stuff you can get from Amazon. Of course, I sell the canards to the side, or, you know, side splitters, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, looking pretty good. Like the stick out, and here's the finished product. And there she is, all finished and ready for the track. So hope you enjoyed, hope this was helpful, and till next time, thanks, appreciate it.